You promise yourself, "This time I'll do it." You start off well, you feel strong, motivated, but all it takes is a moment of weakness and everything falls apart. You relapse. Again. And again. You feel helpless, as if it were impossible to retain semen for more than a few days. But what if the problem isn't a lack of strength, but rather a lack of strategy? What if there's an invisible pattern that's bringing you down without you even realizing it? In this video, I'll show you exactly why do you always fall, and, most importantly, how to stop falling. Let's talk about mental sabotage, hidden triggers, environmental traps, the power of routine, the importance of brotherhood, and the true transmutation of this energy. This is not theory. It is a change of mindset that can transform your life. If you're tired of starting over, if you want to break out of the vicious cycle and live with consistency, focus, and high energy, watch it until the end. This video is not for those who want to try again. It's for those who have decided that they will never again be a slave to their own impulses. The consistency you're looking for isn't out there. It's in the choices you're going to make from now on. Most men who fail to retain semen believe that the problem lies solely in their willpower. But what few realize is that the root of relapse is hidden in unconscious patterns. Since childhood, we are conditioned to seek immediate pleasure as an emotional escape valve. Masturbation becomes an anesthetic against frustration, boredom, sadness, or stress. When you try to retain semen without resolving the reason behind the escape, sooner or later you will fall back into it again. Therefore, the first step to maintaining consistency is to investigate the emotional origin of your addiction. You can never defeat an enemy you don't understand. And ejaculation addiction is often a response to unresolved emotional voids. Every time you feel a trigger, like loneliness or rejection, your brain activates the ancient neural pathway for sexual release. This automatic mechanism needs to be identified and reprogrammed. Start noticing what emotion precedes the urge to masturbate. This simple practice of self-observation can begin to weaken the cycle of relapse. It is common for men to say, "I was fine, then suddenly I had an uncontrollable urge." This is not true. Before the urge arose, there were thoughts and feelings that were ignored. A relapse into semen retention is built in silence. Therefore, consistency begins with awareness. Writing down your triggers, understanding your cycles, and mapping out the most dangerous times and situations is a mature attitude for those who truly want to free themselves. Without this internal map, the relapse becomes a routine disguised as an accident. There's also a subtle sabotage. Your mind creates convincing justifications for giving in to your desire. Just for today, it's better than going out and doing worse. I'll relax and then come back stronger. These internal lies are the poison of constancy. The key here is to identify this deceptive voice and silence it with truths that you yourself have chosen to believe. Repeat to yourself, "Every time I fall, I step away from my power." This breaks the automatic cycle. Finally, remember, there is no true semen retention without self-knowledge. Consistency is not born from brute force, but from clarity. Those who understand their own triggers change their own destiny. You don't need to be a slave to your impulses. You just need to be alert to the mental traps that bring you down. In the next topic, we'll talk about the environment and how it can be your greatest ally or your silent executioner. You may have the best of intentions, but if your environment is working against you, it will only be a matter of time before your next relapse. A messy bedroom, social media full of sensual stimuli, lack of routine. All of these are fuel for a breakdown. Semen retention requires vigilance over your surroundings. Your environment needs to be a reflection of your resolve to evolve, not your old self addicted to easy pleasure. Look around you now. Does your space inspire you to stand firm or invite you to fall? Pornography enters through the eyes, but it is the context that gives it space to take hold. Those who live in chaos seek escape. And men's favorite escape today is ejaculation. It is not enough to want to change. You need to structure the environment to reinforce this choice. Less stimuli, more purpose. Less distractions, more clarity. Social media, TV shows, music, everything is loaded with sexual triggers. And if you don't learn to filter them, you'll fall for it without even realizing it. The brain is sensitive to images and suggestions, and these stimuli activate the dopamine areas linked to addiction. You think you're browsing for nothing, but in fact you're fueling your desire. If you want to maintain consistency, You need to be radical about what you consume. You don't watch something harmless. You either feed or weaken the addiction. Organize your space. Create an atmosphere of discipline. Have books in sight, visual messages that remind you of your purpose, objects that bring energy of strength and growth. A man in semen retention needs to live as if he were preparing for something great. If the environment weakens you, you weaken. Consistency does not reside in occasional effort. It is born in a well-cared-for daily routine. If you are a man looking for more energy, focus, and self-control, I have prepared a powerful ebook that will show you how semen retention can transform your life. Link in the first pinned comment. The world around you will either conspire to make you rise or fall, and that depends on how you shape that world. Semen retention is not an isolated decision. It is a new lifestyle. And lifestyle begins with what you allow to influence you. In the next topic, we will understand how to change your internal dialogue so as not to sabotage your journey at the most fragile moment. The battle for semen retention is a silent and lonely one. It happens inside your head, every day. Your inner voice can be your greatest ally or your cruelest tormentor. It is the one that whispers, just this once, you deserve it, no one will know, and then screams, you failed again. This roller coaster of self-deception and guilt is a poison that destroys consistency. If you don't change your internal dialogue, you will continue to sink into relapses. It all starts with awareness. Whenever temptation strikes, stop and listen to your thoughts. What is your mind trying to justify? What arguments is it using to sabotage you? When you write it down or say it out loud, it loses its hypnotic power. Naming the enemy within is the first step to defeating it. You are not your thoughts, but if you don't question them, they will rule you. Next, rewrite your mental speech. Every time the urge arises, repeat empowering phrases. I am stronger than this. My energy is sacred. I am building the man I want to be. This is not self-help talk. It is neurological programming. Your brain believes what it hears repeatedly. Semen retention also requires consistency in the words you use to yourself. Words shape behavior. Also, avoid emotional self-sabotage. Many men fall because they are sad, tired, or feeling inadequate. And in those moments, they seek comfort in masturbation. But that is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Consistency requires that you learn to embrace your emotions without running away from them. When you can sit with the pain and breathe, without turning to pornography, you grow. You become truly stronger. The big change comes when you become your own mentor. When your inner voice is no longer that of a weakling trying to justify his failures, but that of a warrior reminding himself of who he is becoming. Semen retention is a mental training ground. And every man who masters his mind, masters the world. In the next topic, we will talk about the power of the morning routine as a pillar for your constancy. How you start your day determines your mental resilience. If you wake up with your phone on, scrolling through social media, and getting carried away by random stimuli, you're setting yourself up for failure. Semen retention requires you to build up daily shields, and the first shield is your morning routine. Starting your day with discipline creates a solid foundation for saying no to the things that sap your energy. A well-structured morning sends a message to your brain, I am in control. This is a game changer. Getting up at the same time, taking a cold shower, doing breathing exercises, practicing meditation, and writing down your goals are habits that rewire your mind. When you start your day with purpose, your nervous system shifts into warrior mode, and your chances of relapse plummet. One of the most common mistakes is to believe that it's okay to start the day on autopilot. But this autopilot is an invitation for distractions and desires. Semen retention is sabotaged by a lack of intention. If you don't choose what you're going to think, feel, and do when you wake up, the world will choose for you. And the world doesn't want you to win. It wants your attention, your energy, your click, your downfall. Incorporate energetic practices into your morning. Deep breathing, stretching, reading uplifting texts, or saying empowering affirmations. Each small habit creates an invisible but powerful foundation. You may not notice it at first, but over time your mind will become firmer, clearer, and more resistant to impulses. It's like training a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it gets. Starting the day off right is not a luxury. It is a spiritual survival strategy. Consistent semen retention is a reflection of a man who honors his mornings as if they were sacred rituals. The sun did not rise by chance. It rose to remind you that there is a new chance to master your energy. In the next topic, we will delve into how to deal with nighttime temptations, the most treacherous time of the day. Most relapses happen at night. When the body is tired and the mind is vulnerable, desire comes stronger. Semen retention requires extra attention during this period. At night, you can't negotiate with your mind. It will always choose pleasure. That's why a strategic plan is needed to protect this critical time. It's not about willpower, but about emotional intelligence. What I'm explaining here is much more detailed in my ebook The Power of Semen Retention. There is a simple step-by-step guide for you to apply in your daily life. It is very worthwhile. The first rule is to never go to sleep without a purpose. If you just lie down and wait for sleep to come, your brain will wander back to its old ways, fantasies, memories, desires. An idle mind at night is fertile ground for downfall. So create a nighttime ritual that clears your mind and prepares your body for rest. Light reading, guided meditation, or prayer are powerful tools. Simple, yet transformative. Avoid using your cell phone in the bedroom. This is a modern trap that destroys semen retention. With one touch, you access your greatest enemy, images and videos that activate the addiction circuit. If your cell phone is your partner in relapses, treat it as such. Leave it outside the bedroom, activate airplane mode or use blockers. Whoever protects your night space protects your vital energy. This is not an exaggeration, it is maturity. Also, be aware of the patterns that precede a fall. Some men find that the urge to fall comes after arguments, frustrations, or boredom. Others find it after overeating or consuming irrelevant content. Everyone has their own cycle. When you map out the signs, you can anticipate the trap. Consistency comes when you anticipate it, not when you try to react in the heat of temptation. Night is the warrior's final test. It's when everything goes silent, and you have to face yourself. If you can get through it without falling, you'll wake up stronger, cleaner, more aware. Semen retention is like climbing a mountain. Each night you overcome is a step towards the top. And from up there, the view is clear, steady, and powerful. In the next topic, we'll talk about how to replace immediate pleasure with true purpose. What makes a man trade semen retention for a momentary release? The answer is simple: lack of purpose. When you live without a clear goal, immediate pleasure becomes irresistible. Masturbating becomes a cheap substitute for real achievements. It's like trying to satisfy hunger with smoke. Until you fill your time with goals, desire will dominate your empty spaces. Nature hates a vacuum, and so does the mind. If you don't occupy it with something that inspires you, it will seek out what numbs you. That's why so many men keep falling. They have nowhere to go. They are emotionally lost, without direction. Semen retention is only sustained when there is a greater reason, a project, a legacy, a mission. Pleasure is weak compared to the power of someone who knows what they are building. Purpose turns "I can't fall" into "I don't want to fall." Because now there's something more important than a few seconds of pleasure. When you get up every day with a reason, the triggers lose their power. Temptations become tests, not traps. A man driven by purpose doesn't slog along in doubt. He strides forward in conviction. That changes everything. It creates constancy. But you don't have to start with something grand. A simple goal can rekindle the flame. Learn something new, build a strong body, generate income, inspire others, create something from scratch. What matters is that you awaken the feeling of evolution. Because that's what the male soul seeks, to grow. When you grow, desire loses ground. The energy that was previously wasted begins to build your inner empire. Pleasure or purpose. Every day you choose. And your life will be a reflection of that choice. Semen retention is a silent declaration that you have chosen greatness. That you have chosen to plant deep roots instead of living on empty orgasms. In the next topic, we will talk about something essential to keeping this choice firm: brotherhood. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they practice semen retention is trying to win alone. You may start alone, but the journey is strengthened by brotherhood. When you share your challenges with other committed men, something changes. Responsibility, motivation, and true support emerge. Alone, the burden is heavy. Together, the purpose grows. Persistence grows when you know you are not fighting just for yourself. Loneliness fuels relapse. It is in silence, in the lack of direction, that desire finds its way. But when you connect with others who are also on the journey, your mindset changes. You begin to see your struggles more clearly and your progress with more value. Semen retention is not just a technique, it is a philosophy of life that needs to be nurtured in community. Brotherhood doesn't have to be a physical group. It can be a trusted friend, a mentor, an online group, a channel of authentic content. What matters is being surrounded by similar energy, by men who don't mock your efforts, but who value your decisions. You need voices that lift you up when your mind wants to sink you. This is an essential part of consistency. Don't put it off. Click on the first pinned comment, buy the ebook and start changing your energy, your mind and your life today. Furthermore, mutual support creates a safety net. When one falls, the other gets up. When one advances, the other is inspired. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. The journey of semen retention is long and challenging, and those who try to be lone warriors often die in the desert. But those who walk in a tribe go further, with more clarity, more strength, and more faith. If you don't have anyone to share your evolution with, look for someone. Ask, create, connect. Brotherhood is like an invisible shield. And every warrior worth his salt walks with allies. In the next topic, we'll talk about something even deeper. How to use the energy of retention to manifest everything you desire. Semen retention is not just a practice of containment, it is a practice of transformation. Accumulated sexual energy does not disappear, it rises. And when well directed, it becomes fuel for manifestation. It is the same principle as that of great geniuses. They channeled sexual impulse to create, conquer, and build. You have in your hands the raw material of creation. What will you do with it? Transmutation happens when you take the urgency of desire and redirect it with intention. Feel like masturbating? Get up and create something. Write, study, meditate, move your body. The secret is to shift the energy from your genitals to your brain and heart. When you learn to convert desire into productive action, your magnetic field expands. You begin to attract, rather than just desire. This energy, when accumulated, activates power centers in the body and mind. You perceive more, your intuition sharpens, your words gain more impact. Semen retention makes you magnetic. Not by magic, but because your entire system vibrates at a higher level. And at this vibration, you create realities more quickly. Your goals stop being just ideas, they become tangible manifestations. But be careful, this only works with discipline. Storing energy without direction generates frustration and tension. Therefore, have projects. Set goals. Commit to something that requires the best version of you. Use your energy to fuel these commitments. Transmutation is like guiding a river. If you channel it, it generates life. If you don't, it overflows and destroys. Semen retention gives you the power to create. And you have to decide whether to use it to build or to waste. Transmutation is the most spiritual act a man can do with his energy. In the next section, we'll look at cycles and setbacks, and how to turn each failure into momentum to climb higher. The truth is harsh but liberating. You will fail. At some point, your semen retention will be challenged, and you may give in. But failing doesn't define you. It's what you do afterward that defines you. Many men use a relapse as an excuse to give up. Others use it as a springboard to become stronger. The difference is in the maturity with which you see your own mistake. Relapse is not a failure, it's a diagnosis. When you fall, analyze. What led you there? What did you ignore? What emotional pattern did you repeat? Without these answers, you are doomed to repeat the cycle. Semen retention needs to be accompanied by awareness. Each fall is a lesson that life offers you. If you learn from it, the fall does not lower you, it raises you up. But if you pretend it was by accident, you are choosing ignorance and suffering. Guilt, when left untreated, becomes poison. Many men, after a relapse, sink into shame, self-criticism, and paralysis. This weakens the spirit even more. The way out is to forgive yourself firmly. I failed, but I am not the failure. Get up, reorganize your triggers, refine your routine, strengthen your purpose. Use pain as a brick, not an anchor. Your progress lies in your reaction. Starting over is not about going backwards. It is about adjusting your route more wisely. Every warrior who has ever succeeded in the field of semen retention has had setbacks along the way. But none of them stopped there. The secret is not to romanticize the setback, but also not to wallow in it. Look your weakness in the eye and say, "You showed me where I need to evolve." And then move forward with even more focus. Consistency isn't about never falling down. It's about falling down less, getting up faster, and getting stronger. That's true victory. In the next section, we'll look at what happens in the long run to those who win the cycle, the silent superpowers of semen retention. Few people talk about what happens when you overcome the cycle. Most people get hung up on the initial difficulties, but forget that by persisting, something deep inside you changes. Constant semen retention awakens levels of mental clarity, focus, magnetism, and spiritual strength that cannot be explained, only experienced. It is as if the man returns to his natural state, pure, strong, aligned. Your eyes light up. Your presence changes. People notice something different, even if they don't know what it is. Your energy field becomes denser, more influential. You speak less, but when you do, it makes an impact. You walk with more confidence. You think more clearly. Energy that was once wasted now accumulates as a silent reserve of power. This is true masculinity being restored, cell by cell. Your body responds, high testosterone, strong disposition, strengthened immunity. Your mind does too. Less anxiety, more emotional control, more decision-making ability. And spiritually, you reconnect. Vivid dreams, clear intuitions, connection with what really matters. Semen retention is not just about holding back, it's about elevating. It's about remembering who you are, before the addiction, before the distraction. Over time, what was once a struggle becomes a lifestyle. You stop counting the days. You stop suffering because of desire. You simply live in a different state. You are no longer running away from addiction. You are living for something greater. And this state is only accessible to those who conquer themselves. The benefits are silent but profound. They manifest themselves in your energy, in your achievements, in your inner glow. You now know what needs to be done. The fall doesn't happen out of nowhere, it's built. But in the same way, constancy is also built. Day after day. Choice after choice. Semen retention is not a prison, it's a liberation. And only the strong remain in it until they reap the rewards. The weak keep looking for excuses. The strong build a new reality. Which one do you want to be? The truth is that you didn't come here for nothing. If this content touched you, it's because there's something inside you that's ready to awaken. Enough of living in cycles of guilt. Enough of restarting the same game every week. It's time to move up a level. To master your mind, your body, your energy. It's time to live in your natural state of power. And that starts now. If you want to speed up this process, if you want a more in-depth and direct step-by-step guide to getting out of stagnation, click on the link in the description and check out my complete ebook on semen retention. There, I will clearly guide you through each step of the transformation. This is not just any PDF, it is a roadmap to reclaiming your true masculine strength. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. And if this content made sense to you, share it with a brother who needs to hear this today. Together, we will restore the masculinity that society has tried to erase. You have fallen many times. Now get up, and don't fall anymore.